Mm. Welcome to our monthly Energetic Brew gathering for the season of Cancer. Cancer is going to be starting next week. This is the reason why we're here now. So many different ideologies, practices, and different modalities will help and show and guide us that when we start to look at the season before it's upon us, we can start to transition with more ease. And this is what this monthly class is about, is giving you a body tool, giving you some transits, some information of what to look for and how to navigate it into your chart. So I'm glad that you found this video and you found this space. My name is Rochelle McFarland. I'm an energetic medicine woman here to help awaken your whole being wellness. And I'm here joined with my lovely co host, who might introduce himself. We never know. Depends on how he feels.
I'm Zane, and I'm here tonight to help share the transits coming from the perspective of a Virgo rising.
And you brought that up, such a juicy part. The reason why we like doing this is because we sit across the table from each other. I am a rising Pisces. Pisces and Virgo are two pieces of our astrology where they sit across from each other, meaning that they're 180 degrees in the 12 house system with astrology in Western astrology. We like to look at life through the lens of our rising sign and encourage you, if you haven't found that out, to learn how to do it. And maybe that's why you're here tonight. Before we get into that any further, the best thing about this is that we can welcome our whole self, our whole being into this space, into this learning, and into our community space. We're joined here live with students, and for the sake of privacy, you can't see them on purpose. They are there in their own spaces doing this part of the class to start. And there'll be more information in the show notes down below how you can join as well, because there's a lot of cool things that happen off camera. So without further ado, with us going into the cardinal season of Cancer, it is really important that we start to look at the structures and what we can do with our body when it comes to water and how we can use it. So this evening we'll be honoring a lot of that yang energy, the structural energy of the bladder, and a part of what we're wanting to now create is some space to just honor the land that we're on, honor the capacity. Maybe you don't know the traditional territory. Zane and I are on the Silk territory of the Okanagan people. We want to honor this land and honor the land where you are. So now, with some deep breaths, however that feels for you, just landing in, allowing the idea of water, that we are meeting together in calm, cool waters upon the lands where we are, and being able to now feel into that space, into our body, and allowing ourselves to breathe. If you're feeling a yawn, really let that out, inviting in a sigh if you need to, a little bit of movement as we call in the directions, the east, the south, the west, the north, above and below. And of course, we're here to honor the great titans as well. Any ancestors or any other spirit guides or animals that need to come in to support ourselves and this beautiful container that we are in this evening, you can do so now. Those words resonate with you. Please invite them as your own. Otherwise, take a few moments now to speak the words that you need to. What is it that resonates with you so that you can create this sacredness of this space to be able to breathe into this body, this beautiful body that is you. Placing your hands wherever it might feel good at this point in time. Again, becoming really present in this body, relaxed more and more. Whether it's the hands on the chest or the stomach, maybe one on each. Maybe it's just on your abdomen. Now's the time just to choose you. Choose what feels good for you. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling out the mouth, and at your own pace, continuing this breath, just sinking in and allowing yourself to soften. Releasing and letting go, feeling the feet, feeling the sit bones, feeling how you're supported, whether you're sitting or laying down. Maybe you want to wiggle and readjust. Again, becoming the observer of your body, your mind, and the connection that the two make together. Noticing those hands, noticing the feet, noticing and becoming more and more still within yourself. On each inhale and each exhale, notice what you can bring in to nurture yourself, and then to exhale what no longer fits. Becoming discerning, releasing and letting go of any judgments, any shoulds, anything that really doesn't belong. Just let it go, let it go, let it go. Inhaling again. Feeling that inhale into your lungs, feeling the body expand, the belly expand, and release that pelvis floor a little bit. Let it be open. Sending a grounding cord down to the earth, letting yourself feel safe and connected in your body to the best of your ability now in this moment. And as you're moving through this breath, I'm curious about when we call in the color blue, where that might go for you. And notice if your hands need to move to a different position in your body. Start giving yourself this permission to trust your body is going to show you where blue needs to go. Contemplating maybe if any thoughts come up with the color blue, memories, and ideas of what the color blue might mean for you. What it might taste like, what it might smell like. Again, this is the invitation about meaning for you, what it feels like in your body. Is blue heavy? Is blue light? With this next series of inhales, just allow it to be what it is. And if your mind isn't bringing you anything, that's okay. Just come back to your breath, inhaling and exhaling the color blue. Dropping the shoulders, relaxing the jaw. Softening. And connecting with that body, a beautiful essence of you, bringing forward what needs to come, releasing ever so gently what needs to go. Just a few more breaths here, focusing on that color blue, where it's resonating in the body. Is it the same place? Has it shifted? And has the color changed? Inviting you now in a way to start working with this color blue and the yang energy, the structure energy in your body. If it feels okay to find your hips with an open palm. Just allow a little bit of exploration in this region, noticing what it might feel like. And if the head feels like it's a better space, just using some flat palms on your forehead. And again, just bringing in that color blue. Allowing the observer to be activated and noticing, is it one hand on the head and one hand in the pelvic region, in that sacral and the root chakra area around the belly button? Where does that hand feel comfortable? Or do they need to stay on the head? Or both hands down in that sacral and root chakra area? Or do they need to go somewhere else? Just noticing now. I'll spend another minute here just coming into the body, the color blue, and using the sense of touch and what it feels like for your body. Surrendering into your own space where you may be sitting or standing or laying down, just softening just a little bit more. Drawing in that lengthening of that breath. Relaxing a little bit more with that breath. Feel it in the chest, feel it down into the belly, and feeling it down into the root area. Just bringing that breath all the way down and all the way out. Giving yourself some gratitude for doing this, for going to the level that you are at right now. Just giving yourself some space, bringing you back into your body with a little bit of wiggle of the toes, some squeezing of the hands, maybe giving yourself a hug if you're needing to right now. Noticing which hand is going over if you're hugging, if that felt like a good idea. Again, choosing what feels good for you, coming back into the sensation of your body, coming back into this room that you're in, the space that you're in, gently bringing yourself into awareness that you are here with us. Those of you that are watching the replay right now, just a little check-in. And for those that are here live, there is going to be some time for you to share. So part of these practices isn't about taking up a whole bunch of your day. It's just coming back in and knowing that each time that the transits are shifting and changing, there's different body practices that we love to share. As I mentioned, the further in as we come back to the next portion, we're going to be talking more and more about the Cancer season. So this is a lot to do with cardinal water, the starting of summer in the Northern Hemisphere, the starting of winter in the Southern Hemisphere. So this is just a time now that we're going to pause this recording and check in with our community to see how they're feeling. Those of you that are watching the replay, share, please. We would love to know how you're feeling after that practice. Welcome back to our second section where we're going to be talking about the transits in Cancer season. You know, there is something that really gets me giddy about this season because it has so much goodness that sometimes can feel raw at sometimes at a point. And I actually just felt the claws of my daughter earlier today. So if you've been feeling kind of like that a little bit, getting a glimpse of it, you're going to want to make sure you tune in, grab your notepad and pen, and Zane's going to take us into the transits. We're going to just be doing little snippets. So Just tune in little bits at a time. Here we go.
So, to start off, would like to ask you the question. Those that are in the replay, also here live. Those that are live, go ahead and use the chat function. Is as we move closer to Cancer season, I'm curious what what do you know about Cancer, the sign of the crab? What meanings do you think of when you think of Cancer? I'm just gonna
Someone
pause.
family oriented.
Sorry, Jamie.
Oh, my chat's still on. Sorry. I was using talk to text. Like
Uh,
family oriented. Sorry.
no, it's right. If you're welcome to jump in here. I don't know if the recording would catch you, but one of our participants, just in case the recording didn't catch one of our participants here that is here live just shared that it's family oriented, family oriented. And so I agree with that. It's within looking at Cancer sits at the bottom of the chart when we look at the collective. And the fourth house, the bottom of the chart is the house of the home, roots. And so it's really that piece of, yeah, that family connection. Another one in chat shared sign of the mother, water, its mode is cardinal, and creating safe space. And so, yeah, with Cancer, Cancer is the cardinal water sign, symbolized by the crab and is ruled by the moon. And the energy that Cancer brings is yin energy to the chart. And when we look at it at a body, bringing it to the body, it is the chests and the breasts. And so within Cancer season, what is happening in the sky? We have Mercury moving into Cancer a few days before the sun. But what does that look like with Mercury being in Cancer? Well, it can help us communicate our emotions and feelings, or it can be this battle of the mind and logic versus the emotional side of you. And so within that piece, it's a matter of fact of taking the time to process those pieces that we need to process emotionally, logically, and not try and crosswire. Because if we crosswire the emotional pieces to a logical situation, it may not have the best outcome. And then say vice versa with a emotional situation, may not be the best piece to bring in logic. And so within that piece, it's very much looking at your chart. Earlier, before we started the recording here again, we had a question of not having a lot in Cancer within their natal chart. And so within that piece, I have nothing in Cancer in my natal chart. But the piece is that Mercury is then come into Cancer, and within that transit, I will have that energy within Cancer, within my Cancer house, which is the 11th house for me. And it's that piece of looking at that from the lens. So the planet is, in a sense, the communicator. The sign is the energy or those core pieces of family, bringing in that feminine energy, the nurturing energy. But then with the 11th house, it's all about community. So it's now bringing in that sense of how is their community within nurturing, and how can I nurture my community? But now how can I communicate that and bring in a thought process, but yet still being able to keep a emotional side to it and not just become a pure logic bulldozer that just doesn't care about emotions. Because once the sun moves into Cancer, it's then bring a whole new like life and vitality to that sign. So within looking at your personal chart, it's that piece of being able to uplift and be able to shine light on maybe emotions that have been buried slightly, and being able to really be able to open and express your emotions freely. Maybe and within that piece, yeah, taking time, looking at your own chart, maybe journaling a bit on where your emotional state is to help your processing, as Mercury is also all about writing and comes to writing. So you might resonate with that. There's so many ways to look at this. I'm going to bounce it over to Rochelle to get her perspective, because she's coming from the perspective of a rising Pisces, but then also the feminine perspective.
I love it. I love how much you've grown, child. This is so good. There is so much to cover when it comes to this part of the modality and the art that can come from astrology. With this, Zane had mentioned it's in his 11th house. It's about the community. So depending on what house this is starting to reflect, I know that there was a question that we had here live where the 10th house is Cancer for the individual and their MC is there. And so one of the questions is what does the MC mean and what is that all about? So you might have that somewhere in your chart. Regardless, we know we're talking about Cancer season, but we want to address this question. And we thought maybe those watching the replay might have that question too. And so, what I remember and how I remember MC being is my career. And that's part of like who you are and the role you're here to play in. So, if this happens to be in Cancer for you, your MC, or maybe it's somewhere else, I'm going to share with under the lens of Cancer. If you have a Cancer MC and it happens to be in your 10th house, the sun is going to bring you light, life, and vitality to your career choices, who you are here to be, and the role you are here to be in this world. So I hope that that helps to answer a little bit. You know that those that are here live, you're welcome to use the chat if that stems out a little bit more questions and we can start to tackle those. But coming back to the transits and what Cancer means for me in this space and time is really knowing like when am I being hard-shelled and when am I being soft? So a lot to do with Zane being a practicality of an earth rising sign. He's a lot more about the practicality part. And I'm more about like, how does it feel? What is that like in your body? And often we can be really missing what the body is stating. So regardless of where Cancer lands in your natal chart, what house it's activating, really start to play attention. Yes, I said play attention to how this season is feeling for you. And I know, like, he had mentioned something about Mercury in the communication part. It's like, how are you as a communicator? This might be a question you might want to think about. How is my communication been? Some have I got a lot of messages today before class of like, what the hell is happening in the sky today? It was actually a WTF of like, there's lots happening. And I want to speak to that. When we are moving so quickly through life, in life, and then also the sky is really doing a lot of movement right now. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I love the chat when it's working, by the way. It just gives me such confirmation and affirmation of why we're spending our time here and helping out others. Mercury has a lot to do with how our communication is, and the fact that it's getting very close to the ends of Gemini season or Gemini. yeah, it starts to speed up, and when it starts to speed up, it really puts this quakening and almost electrified feeling and sensations. Earlier I spoke about a mutable sign. That's what Gemini is. It's mutable air. It's the shapeshifter between the seasons. And when it comes to Cancer and it's getting closer and closer to it, it's almost like the prequel. Like it's like the before work that we need to do before the sun gets to what it's going to bring life and vitality for. So again, coming back to this communication part, any planet coming towards the end of the degree of a sign, this is where we can have this quickening, so we can have this crunchy feel. Those are that of menstruation bodies. It's like almost like that fall, that premenstrual time before our bleed comes. And men, I think they could get attacked with it at any time of day because it's just their bodies are different. Fortunately for us women, it's a longer period. Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know how you feel about it, but let me know how you do feel about it when it comes to that analogy, because there is this real transition that the crab wants us to do. It wants us to be able to pinch the things that no longer belong, to chuck it out. And much like this crustacean, it also wants to let the shell go and grow. So there's this real ask for you during the season. What is it that's holding you back from being all of who you can be? What is in the way of you softening a little bit? And for those that have been feeling like you've been too soft, what is it that you need to bring in to harden? And so we just ask, and maybe it's that body practice we did earlier this evening and doing more of that and what that feels good. And so with that, I know, Zane, we will open up for questions in the chat. For those that are here live, those are in your replay. Maybe you have some questions right now. Maybe you have a moment of aha. And I love hearing this. Yeah, I've been feeling that, learning to change my quick feelings and take the time to reflect if that's really who I want to be. I love that. That is beautiful. Thank you for putting that into the chat. And this again, this is sort of like the preview of what Cancer season is going to be like. And so with that, Zane, I feel really complete on it because there are some juicy parts that we want to add in when it does come to Cancer season, because there are some parts in here that Zane has brought forward about some retrogrades. Retrogrades are okay, right? With that, I'll pass it back to you, Zane.
Yeah, so there's a few retrogrades here that will start their retrograde in Cancer season, and these retrogrades will be in effect until 2025, so until next year. And for those that are new here, live and in the replay, and maybe those that just don't know what a retrograde means, is a retrograde is when the planet starts to appear to move backwards in the sky. But then what this means in astrology is a time to look inward and rebalance ourselves to the planet's core meanings or values. So relating back to the sun in Mercury, well, the sun doesn't go retrograde, Mercury does. So we'll stick with Mercury here, of communication and the mind. And so there's that piece of when Mercury goes retrograde, it's that piece of looking inwards of how can I communicate, rebalance my communication skills, but then also maybe rebalance my mind. But the planet that will be going into retrograde first, there's two planets that are going retrograde in Cancer season. The first one is Saturn, where we've been in its shadow since the beginning of April. Saturn will start its retrograde at 19 degrees of Pisces on June 29th and stops at 12 degrees of Pisces on November 14th. And we will be still in the shadow until February 17th. And when I mention, so sorry, I missed the 2025 there. The next year, February 17th, 2025. But to explain what a shadow is, or the shadow of the retrograde, it's that piece of, in a sense, the foretelling of the energy, or that foresight of being able to feel it in advance, experience slightly. Some feel it more than others, but it's that piece of it's going over the same degrees and then back over. And so it's over, well, since April until February, it'll be going over those degrees. But specifically on June 29th and November 14th is when it starts and stops its main retrograde time. That's when we can feel the biggest pieces of shifts or discomfort.
Or shit. Come on, let's just say it. Sometimes that might be what we might be feeling, because there's
Yeah.
such a part of retrogrades that can be disruptive. It's about taking that gold pan, shaking up, getting that cloudy muck out of the way so you can find the gold. And there's just so much when it comes to the medicine of retrogrades. So make sure you've marked your dates down in there, and to give yourself the space to just notice, and to notice maybe where Saturn is in your chart, and to how this might be playing out. And so for those of you that have booked a little mini reading or a reading, you will be able to share and show that with you. Those of you that don't know what Saturn looks like in your chart, we're going to bring something up here to be able to show you a glyph. Hazing, I can bring that up.
Yeah.
And then you said there was 2 planets. So Saturn is one.
Saturn is one, and the other one is Neptune. And Neptune is also in Pisces. With the point in time that it will be going retrograde is July 2nd. It starts its retrograde to December 7th. So it's going to be a long period of time. It's going to be in its retrograde. And it's retrograding at 29 to 27 degrees of Pisces. And we will be in this shadow till March 28th of 2025. So within that span of really looking at taking time for ourselves to find that balance of boundaries, but then also and structure, as when Saturn goes into retrograde, there might be a shift of structures and foundations. And when Neptune goes retrograde, there might be more inner delusion, or more of that. There might be that little devil on your shoulder kind of saying you can't do it, or imposter syndrome like kick in. But then there's also that other piece of being able to find a higher octave of Venus, and Venus is all about love and relationships. And so Mercury or Neptune can show up as a higher version of that love and in relationship. And so it's that piece of making sure you sit down with yourself, being able to put the right foundation together, so then shit doesn't hit the fan and goes all over the place. And from doing that, you can end up building it upon your building the right foundation, so then you can stand on it and stand firm when shit does hit the fan.
Love that. I love that so much. And it's interesting too. You're going to notice now Pisces is mutable water. It's the shape-shifting energy. So how can you use this retrograde period when it comes to Neptune and Saturn? So that higher octave of love and the structures, the rules, the regulations, to how you feel. This is why we were really focusing on water right now. There's a lot of big action in water. There's a lot of big action when it comes to how the water impacts us as a collective. So depending on the recipe, meaning your natal chart for your energetic brew, you might be feeling these a little bit different. But one of the things that we did notice in the beginning of this class is that the energetics have been being felt by everyone. And those that are here live in our class all have different charts. And so there's this real compassion that we need to bring inwards in this next sun season. Yes, Zane mentioned that the retrograde seasons are longer than what the sun season is. The sun season is generally about 29 to 30 days, depending on how the sun and when the sun moves. This is going to be a real time for us to really go slower, really come into how am I delusional in my life? What boundaries need to come into place to be able to recognize that? And the most biggest part is how can I self-reference? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves is how can I self-reference? So self-reflecting is one thing as I can reflect, but when I can reference and I can come back to myself, come back to my true north, my compass, my authentic self, when I'm navigating these retrogrades, this is the focal point that's going to help shift humanity. I know that this is a huge thing for me to say, but I really truly believe that when we can come in and understand the power we have within ourselves, the planets are here to help and to work with us. I did mention that I wanted to show you the glyphs. This is part of a downloadable piece that you can get off of our Etsy. We have this really beautiful little easy and very concise, just a few pages. It's under 10 pages where it can start to help you grow through the understanding and start deciphering your own chart. Then, so what I'm going to do really quick here, Zane, as you get ready for the next transit we're going to talk about, I'm just going to bring up this one page that we have here. And this will just give you some quick pieces on where your, let me just give my little button here that shows me with present so then it'll make it nice and big. I don't want to present and record. No, there we go. I'm already recording. Excellent. So this is one of the pages we have in our learning guide in our Energetic Brew Basics. And the reason why I love screen sharing, Zane will tell you why, because why, son? What do I like to do the most?
You like to draw on the screen.
I do. I love the deviant in me loves to, and I I did Jupiter because Jupiter rules my chart. I have to honor Jupiter whenever possible. We can get into that into our next time, a little bonus class. So Saturn is what we were talking about, and the other one we were also talking about was Neptune, which is further down my page. Thank you, Zane, for helping out with that. So this is the glyph. These are these beautiful little symbols that help us to honor the planets. Part of what we can do is we can create art with this. We can create even just some drawings. I know some of you do Reiki. This could be a symbol you could be adding into your practice. It can be just a simple thing that you put on a rock and put it out in your garden space, on your altar. Maybe it's just on a card, and start to honor how Saturn shows up for you. Zane was talking about Saturn, but as you can see in here, we read really, really simple. Saturn's about life purpose, regulations, limits, structures, authority figures, a lot to do with the paternal energy, meaning that masculine father energy. Sometimes it has to come from within us or other people in and around us that are in our community. So we're not here to do the blame game for any of the dads who might not be showing up. The same when it comes to the moon energy, it might not be when the moon can show up as well. So it's like, how can we do this for ourselves? Retrograde season is the best time to start going inwards, as they mentioned. Again, Saturn's about energy, about the rules, and about discipline. Zane, my annotation is in my way to be able to see Neptune. Here we go. So it's a higher octave of love, spiritual awakening, spiritual development, intuition, and the all one, really coming into that sense of unity. With it retrograding in Pisces, this is about the subconscious. This is about hidden karmatic things. This is also potentially collectively about illness. This is one of the reasons why we want to reach more people, get them, helping them with more body tools to awaken their wellness. So this whole Neptune piece, I can dive into a whole masterclass just on Neptune. Let me know if you're interested in that. but really simple. These two pieces, for the sake of this class, keeping it short and sweet, how can you honor where you might be limiting yourself, where you might be having what's stopping you from being all one with all things? So with that, I'm going to bring down my screen. Zane, did you have another piece? Because we're almost ready to wrap up here. Again, this is about snippet pieces. There's so much happening in the sky all at one time, but we really want you to get the most out of it just by focusing on that retrograde season. And we did have a question about 2 retrogrades at the same time. Yes, that's common. A lot of times in retrograde seasons, we can have many planets coming together at the same time retrograding. It just depends on their orbital path and when it's sort of their turn to be appearing and giving us that permission to slow down. There is one thing I want to say. A lot of the times our lunar nodes are constantly in direct to retrograde. So we're always having some retrograde energy with us. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. There's always that retrograde happening. There is a few times where there's no planet that is in retrograde and they're all direct. But generally, you will always see roughly one retrograde.
That's perfect. And so mark your calendar. The new moon in Cancer is happening July the 5th at 14 degrees. Notice the double 5 there and the fact that, you know, Cancer again started in June. We're really wanting to really bring up that number energy of 5. 5 is what finds the centerpiece in our new number grid. Also in that downloadable, it explains the number grid. So if that's something you're like, whoa, I want to know more about that, just at your fingertips, you can download that for you yourself and start that path. Numerology is something that gives me space to understand when I can go forward on something and when maybe it's okay to go forward on a rest day. Really short. So you covered our Saturn retrograde, our Neptune retrograde. I'm looking at the time where we're at already. What comes up that you think that really needs to be talked about besides the full moon that'll happen on June the 21st on an 8 energy day?
The most that I would say right now is, again, Rochelle was saying this earlier. I forget if it maybe was during our personal time with those that are live here. It might be in the recording, but how fast Mercury is going to move. Because within this time of Cancer season, it's saying move into Cancer, but then it's saying move into Leo. And when it moves into Leo, it will be the same day Neptune is going retrograde. So July 2nd, Mercury moves into Leo. And it's just really interesting to see how fast Mercury moved into Leo within basically a span of 2 weeks, 14 days. So it can be really fast paced where we might have a lot of up and downs with emotions, maybe trying to communicate them, but then, like how I was earlier, can just take a breath and let my brain catch up and process. So within knowing that, take time to process emotions, maybe not with your mind, maybe with your heart, or whatever other emotional processing piece you fall into, that you follow what your body and follow your full body yes in that piece of where I need to process my emotion. As if we're always trying to use our mind, it's just gonna burn out and get too full of everything and feel like I can't think of anything else and completely burnt out. And the best thing to do is take time for yourself. So then you're not burning yourself out.
because there will be an alignment that this creates as Mercury moves very quickly and Neptune is going very slowly and then in its retrograde path. What we might be have happening is, again, that disillusionment. If we want to self-medicate, absolutely, but there could be this real slippery slope that could catch us on a blind side. So I don't know, actually just today when you were driving, somebody passed you in a double yellow line and it came out of nowhere. And so that this might be kind of the energy. If you are moving too fast, not listening to that sacred yes that Zane's talking about, it can all of a sudden creep up onto you. And we could be reaching for substances. We could be reaching for food. We could be reaching for those, those love bombing like connections where we just like get swept up. So just, if you notice those things are happening, reach out for support. As we are winding this down, we're wanting to make sure that there are, we've covered some territory. We want to keep it bite-sized for you. If you're watching the replay right now and you have some questions, please reach out. Never hesitate, because that's what we're here for. For those of you that are here live, we're going to stop this recording here very quickly and we're going to open it up so we can have some questions. We're going to dive into some charts so we can start looking at what does this aspect look like. And then those of you that have had that little mini reading piece, we can start to look at what Cancer season is bringing to you. How is the sun bringing more light and life vitality to you through the lens of these retrogrades, and what to be looking forward to. So if that's something that you feel like you want in your life, then say yes. Come to our next class. And Zane, our next class is, I know we're like the second Thursday of every month. Next class will be July the 11th. We'll put a link in the show notes where you can come in and join us. Again, this class is free. There's always upgrade options, but again, you don't have to, because we're here to serve you and help you as you are here live. We love answering questions. So with that, Zane, do you have anything that you want to share before we sign off and have some fun in the Zoom room?
I will just say I appreciate those that are here live and those that have spent time to watch this replay, and I hope that you got the best out of it. Happy Cancer season.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure to leave us some comments, share this, subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date with all of the goodness we're here. And a friendly reminder, every week we do a Meridian Monday post. So for those of you looking for more support on a shoestring budget, we're here for you, because those are completely free. Each week we post a meridian that goes with some of the transits that we're talking about, the way we might be impacted that week. And again, this is a body practice about tracing on an electrical line that we have chosen to go with these transits. We believe we're the only astrologers that are here to give you a physical body practice to be able to navigate those currents that are up in the sky, those cosmic frequencies that are dancing and that might be stirring us. So if you're ready to stir your own ingredients, continue to make sure to show up. Check out our Meridian Monday. Is it there to help you? Thanks again for watching, and I appreciate each and every one of you. See, I even have to breathe too. So nonetheless, let's just take a collective breath together as we close off this recording, inhaling through the nose and exhaling. Love you all very much, and we'll see you again very soon.